Good evening. In accordance with board policy, this announcement is to advise all attendees tonight's board meeting is being recorded. Persons wishing to address the board on any agenda or non-agendized item must fill out a speaker card. We do have speaker cards this evening. We'll now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we have an agenda this evening, we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Karen. We have a second by Juliana. Please vote. Passes 5-0. Reporting out of closed session. It was moved by Karen, seconded by Anthony, that we suspend employee 623757 for 3 days. A vote of 5-0. Next, it was moved by Karen, seconded by Juliana, that we appoint Lori Canero, Shauna Ben, and Jennifer Andresi to the position of assistant principal. Again, passed 5-0. Congratulations. And that is our report out of closed session for the evening. Next, we have presentations. We're going to have the parent council presentations, please.
My name is Edith Hernandez, and I'm PTA Council President. I would like to thank you for having me here tonight. And today, I would like to highlight all of the amazing work our PTAs are doing during the work that they did in the past month, not only inside school grounds, but out in the community. Avocado Elementary organized a super fun book gathering at Barnes & Noble. Crest organized a fun ice skating outing for the students. Bostonia Elementary had a fun winter dance and brought some holiday cheer to the residents of a retirement home. Hillsdale got national recognition from PTA and earned a grant for a campaign on tobacco prevention and hosted a delicious lunch for the staff. Amasha did an incredible holiday shop. Madison hosted a super fun winter wonderland celebration with the Grinch. Montgomery is keeping the students warm in the mornings with hot cocoa and cookies, and Magnolia PTA volunteered to help their school beautiful international art walk a success. Rios hosted a food drive. Fuerte, Rancho San Diego, and Vista Grande are also busy this week putting together holiday shops and other celebrations for their community. The work of our PTAs and parent volunteers is truly inspiring, but we couldn't do it with the support of our district, our superintendent, and school administrators, so thank you to each and every one of you. And talking about cheer, I prepared a little video for you to enjoy. Thank you, and may you have a beautiful holiday season, and see you guys next year.
Say hello to friends you know, and everyone Elementary School. I was so excited to get invited by Karen to talk about some of the things that we had going on at our school. So since some of you may have seen the presentation that I had submitted back in October, I did plan on doing another one, but our electricity is out in our community right now, so I could not get any type of internet access to do that for you guys. Since the last time I saw you guys, we held our trunk or treat. All of our donations came from family members. We had over 300 people attending, and the PTO was able to put on cotton candy for all of those families. 24 trunks were involved in that, and 12 of those happened to be our staff members that were able to come and participate in that. Within 30 minutes of our event, we ran out of candy, so thank DoorDash for having all of that candy delivered to us immediately. We also held the Kids Are First fundraiser. We were able to do this with brochures and online sales. With that money, we exceeded expectations, and we actually turned around and gave $100 back to our teachers for our Jogathon. We held our holiday store last week, which is a huge success to our students, but we didn't want to recognize any type of fundraising from it. I have to give a huge shout out to all the family members that came to help me run that store. I thought I was going to lose my head, but without our parent volunteers, I wouldn't be able to do my job. The next couple things that happened at our school, we had our Jogathon, which we focused on Polar Express. We were able to get a 10-foot snowman arch for kids to run through with 2 snow machines. We had Santa come and visit, and each kid received a candy cane for participating. That expectation exceeded everything, and total, with the 24 teachers that we have, we were able to raise $9,000. This week, we're focusing on our toy drive. We've already been able to reach out to families and extend an invitation for them to come shopping in our holiday store. And with the Kids Are First fundraiser money, we were able to give the toy drive $1,000 to go buy gift cards and the necessities that they needed. The next things that we have coming up is a yearbook contest. So we would like our kids to actually draw the yearbook like they did last year. That was a huge success. And today I was able to reach out to CHP to confirm that we are doing a bike rodeo on February 9th. The last thing I'd like to say is, again, thank you, Karen, for the invitation. It is a great honor to serve my community and just represent a fraction of what PTO does. I do have to give a huge shout out to my principal, because without her, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. And a huge shout out to my PTO board, because without them, we wouldn't be able to serve our community together. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you guys again.
Thank you.
Hi friends, I am Chrissy, and I'm the PTO president at Blossom Valley and Las Conchas Creek Middle School. I'll start with Las Conchas Creek. We are looking forward to our quarter auction and our dodgeball coming up in the spring. And most recently, well actually on Thursday, we're doing a soup luncheon for the teachers. It is a crowd favorite. We're doing it at Blossom Valley too, but the staff really enjoy those famous homemade soups. I do not cook, so don't be looking for my soup there, but a lot of our team members are really excellent cooks, including Melissa Swanstrom, who makes a very good bell pepper Gouda soup, so check that out if you happen to be doing a school visit that day. For Blossom Valley Elementary Schools have a lot more going on. We just wrapped up all of our winter performances, which PTO sponsors. And so we finished with TK, Kinder, first and second. And our 5th grade is actually performing tonight. Anthony Carnevale is missing his son's last elementary school performance, which is a patriotic performance tonight. So thank you for being here and supporting our community anyways. We have had a lot of fun stuff going at Blossom Valley. We had our fall festival, we had our holiday shop, and I really wanted to thank actually Trustee Carnevale and Trustee Miller. because they happen to work with an organization called the East County Posse, and they actually funded all of our Thanksgiving baskets this year. So I want to thank your side gig organization for that very generous donation. As you guys know, both Blossom Valley and Las Conchas Creek are not Title I schools, but we still have many families that fall below the poverty line. And a lot of those families, where we live, we don't live near a lot of social resources. So it's really important to look after our rural area kids. So I really appreciate the East County Posse for that. And we're hoping that they may be able to help us with the LCC Christmas baskets. We'll see. And we have really enjoyed that. Another thing that our community is very, very proud of is for the last 10 years that I've been a part of the Blossom Valley community and in leadership, is we have helped. It was formerly called CEVIC, but I believe now that special education program has branched off into numerous schools, in fact 10 different classrooms across our district. And every year, because we do have a parent group and a nonprofit status, we were able to donate and give those classrooms still the 130 pumpkins that they needed for their pumpkin patches across our districts. It was 10 classrooms, 5 different schools, none of which included Blossom Valley, but we might see those kids at some point after they graduate from that preschool program. So we were very happy to help them, and a shout out to the Campo Train Pacific Southwest Railway Museum, because they are the ones that donated the pumpkins. So we are very happy to help our community in that way. So thank you guys so much, and if I don't see you sooner, Merry Christmas.
Do we have any other PTO reports? All right, moving on, we have item 8A. So this is our annual organization of the board. So we do have speaker comments on this particular topic. We have a number of speaker topics, so comments. So the number, because we have a lot of cards, is reduced to 2 minutes each. We will come in order. Marilyn Swan West will please start. Chrissy, please stand behind Ms. Swan West. Then Joan Stanton will be behind Chrissy. And then Debbie Jocelyn, if you will please be the next in order, and then we'll call up the next group.
Good evening.
Ma'am, wait until we get going.
Okay.
We'll be right up in a second.
Is our bus paying up? I'm going to restart that for you.
Well, can we make Paul or is back? Can we wait until Juliana is back so she can have comments?
While we're waiting, I'd just like to thank our PTA, PTOs for all the amazing work that is going on in all 28 of our schools, and just all the hard work that is going on to support our students. So thank you.
take a seat while we wait, please feel free to do so.
All right, Sandy, hopefully we're not here till midnight, so let's look at, stretch.
I'll wait till we're out of here before now.
And she's back. All right. Afterwards, all right. Take a break. Karen, at your convenience, please start the timer.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Swan West. I am a mother of 2 boys. They went to school here in East County. They graduated, one from Valhalla, one from Steel Canyon. My oldest is a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and his brother was a sergeant. My daughter-in-law is a major. My husband and I raised our children with values and in respecting parents, teachers, families, people in general, of all shapes and colors. I'm a substitute teacher, a Christian. I wrote a Christian Christmas book that cannot be seen in our schools, sadly. But I believe in family commitment. I believe that Anthony is the most qualified person to elect as president of the board, so this board can move in the direction that would be the best benefit for the children in the school district. And we need that. The parents need to know that you all are behind us and our kids, because we can't move forward as a unit and a family if we don't know that our school board and our teachers and our schools, our superintendent, puts our children first and foremost. Their safety, their attention, their focus needs to be school first. And we expect and hope that you all feel the same way. Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Chrissy, and all of you obviously know me. I have children at Beavan OCC, and I'd first off like to say that, just like in my last report, I'm able to separate personal things from policy and procedure and how I feel about people's voting records and that sort of thing. But thanks to social media, and the fact that our board members are Facebook friends with some middle schoolers, my son was told at school on Monday, sorry they're calling your mom a Nazi. I'm glad that it hasn't been negative in regards towards me or my family, but the potential harm that Jim Miller put my kids in is deplorable. It is commonly known that my children speak German. I speak German to them. It is not hidden that I am Lutheran, which is a Germanic priest religion, or follow Leviticus diet. You'll often hear me say that when there's pizza with pork. And yet, Trustee Miller came after my genetics, my culture, and my religion in order to advance his political campaign. He used me, my children, as shields from his failed policies, lack of governance, and lack of accountability. I would like to see Anthony Carnevale as president. We need change in this district desperately. I will leave you with the words of Martin Luther, another proud German. You are not only responsible for what you say, but what you do not say. And when schools flourish, all flourish. And lastly, people must have righteous principles in the first, and then they will not fail to perform virtuous actions. Thank you.
My name is Joan Stanton, and this is something I am.
If you went one, that's there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, my name is Joan Stanton, and this is something I just don't do. I am a mother of 5 that actually I lived in El Cajon for 40 years. I have 5 children that went through school here in El Cajon, all the way from kindergarten all the way up through high school. It was wonderful. They had a very good education. They're all doing very well now. Now I have 2 great-grandchildren in this area. And my granddaughter will not send her children to a public school. A lot of it is because of the curriculum and what's happening in the schools these days. So, in regards to that, it's just that I just want everyone to know that I would like to support Anthony Caravelli for our president.
Debbie. And then after her, Sherry Finn, Mary Davis, Anna Holmes, and then Dave Burton.
My name is Debbie Jocelyn. I live in Crest, where there's an excellent elementary school there. They have a STEM program and hiking for the kids. They hike by my house. And I liked hearing all the good things about the trunk or treat and the Christmas Santa shop. Those are great things for kids, and that's how schools should be. Schools should have all those activities, but there is this evil trying to weave its way into our kids' lives, and it's through programs like I want Anthony to be the board president because I know he'll vote on the things as I would vote. If I was on board, which I will never be, but whereas like the YMC overnight camp situation that happened, 9 kids came back very traumatized, and it was this gender pronoun thing and nighttime bed checks and stuff, and that organization should have been voted out of our district, and it wasn't by this board. And there's also this curriculum, there's this thing called Get Your Teach On Teachers, and it provides blogs and stuff for kids to go on and be lured in to these perverted, it is perversion to try to take your body and change it from one sex to another, and it's harming kids. So this board has to change, and that's why the next election, we're going to try to change the board members, and when this vote, you vote for a board president, please vote for Anthony Caravelli. He's doing what we want.
Good evening, board. Mary Davis here tonight out of deep, deep concern about the continuing actions of this board and the pro-union, anti-parents trajectory you continue to take. After disappointing votes regarding the YMCA camp and then last month the Get Your Teach On training, you have made it clear through your actions that unions come first and parents a very distant second. What is even more egregious are the tactics, some of which border on hyperbole at best and emotional blackmail at worst, that were exhibited by some of the board, your administrators, and your superintendent. This was evident at the last meeting where we heard from more than one person that we needed to, quote, trust the teachers. as if a vote to not approve the training were in some way impugning their character or professional judgment, instead of treating the decision as a governing board rightly exerting its authority to decide what types of training and presenters merit values alignment and financial resources from this district. For the record, I want to be very, very clear that I strongly support teachers. Most are extremely dedicated and committed to teaching all children equally without supplanting approved curriculum with personal agendas, narratives, or biases. But I am extremely concerned about the Darth Vader-like grip of control that unions have seemingly exerted on this board, as well as your superintendent seemingly running the board instead of serving as your sole employee who operates at your discretion. It is absolutely time for new leadership on this board. You need a president that will put the interests and the rights of parents first. That person is Anthony Carnevale, and I'm asking you to make him board president. Thank you.
Ms. Finn.
Good evening. I too am here to support Anthony Carnevale for president, and I encourage you board members to pay attention to what's been happening lately. I know you're all aware. I know you're all on Facebook. I know you all have seen this post. Pretty confident you have. I'd be surprised if you haven't. You know, you've got these boards up here that say all these positive, inspiring things that, you know, this is what the supporting compass is. Doesn't look like it from your leader. It's time for new leadership. It's time for new leadership. And I hope you guys will seriously take into consideration, not just this, but we come in here time and time again, and you, Mr. Miller, have been condescending to your constituents. You've been condescending to your board members. It's unnerving, really, and quite frankly, it's getting old, and it's time for change. And I hope you will seriously take into consideration his actions. We've been coming for what, the last 2 years now? I've seen it consistently. I didn't know you before this, and I worked in family law for 27 years. This is what I know of you, and it's disappointing. So, again, I don't know, maybe come from this side and read all of this and put it into practice.
Ms. Holmes, when the clock starts, please.
My name is Anna Holmes, and I have lived in this area for 40 years. I do know that many things have changed over the last 40 years, and we have become aware. Things have become exposed by the leadership here, things that we never thought were going to happen. We expected more. We expected, I came here in June, and I asked at another meeting if we were going to do anything for Constitution Week. Constitution Day was on September 17th. If there was going to be anything taught to these children about the Constitution, maybe for the entire week, I haven't seen or heard anything about that. And I did bring that up before my own board member. You know, I don't know why we have to come here and ask you to do the obvious, which is spend the money responsibly. When I hear that teachers are going out to training that will imply to them that this is something that you want them to bring to the kids, and yet this training is not anything that is important for them. It's not something that they knew ahead of time and that they're allowed to teach. To me, it tells me that the leadership here is responsible for that. We want strong leadership that is thinking conservatively. And I ask you to vote for Anthony Carnevale. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm David Burton. I represent East County Citizens Oversight. I don't need it.
We
You
do.
do for
You're
the
on
Zoom.
Zoom.
Anyways, I'm David Burton, representing East County Citizens Oversight Group. I'm here because I care about this district. I've grown up in this district. I went to this district. I've got a lot invested in this district. And school boards are one of the most important things we have to deal with. A lot of people don't even understand who's running and what's going on in the school districts. But when you pay attention, you understand that the children are our future. And your primary job here is to keep them safe and to educate them. Not give them a bunch of minutia that confuses what's going on. It's education and safety. That's your primary job. You guys are our elected representatives. This is our district. It's not your district, it's our district. You're our representatives to oversee how this district runs. I'm going to give you a little analogy. Let's say we have a ship and we have 5 captains that we've elected. And they're all duly elected, equally elected. And the captain that's running the ship, it's his turn to run the ship, keeps running into an iceberg. Well, I say it's time to change the ship captain and give the wheel to another member and see what we can do to change. There's been a lot of problems, and I got a long list of the problems that have happened in the last year, and the last 5 years, and the last 8 years, but I'm not going to go into all of those right now, because I have only got 22 seconds left. So I'm asking that we go for a change. Your record, every vote that you take is your record that you've got to live with in the community. So I'm asking you to vote for a change and see if we can't get that ship running clearly and missing the icebergs. So vote for Anthony Carnevale for president. Thank you.
That ends the public speaking comment on this particular topic.
Oh, not really.
So, you've had your time, Kristen. Priscilla? No, this is all the 8 A's. One moment, Priscilla. See, you are 8E on the governing board committee assignments. Let me see if it got shuffled around. I have you as general public comment, Priscilla, and on 8E as the committee assignment.
I handed all my parts over to the president. I don't have any other parts on me.
You said general?
Yeah, so the general public comment and then on 8E.
Something got mixed up, and I skipped to 8A, that's what I did. Instead of E? 8A instead of general.
So instead of the general comment?
No.
So I don't care. 2 minutes.
Good evening, board and superintendent and staff. I come before you this evening in support of Anthony Carnevale for board president, which I'm sure is no surprise. I do so with the ongoing commitment to support this board in what it has been lacking under the past and present leadership. My following comments come from CSBA. Board policy serves as a foundation for the operation of school districts and county offices of education. It encapsulates the board's vision, philosophy, and goals, incorporates state and federal laws and regulations, and establishes best practices. Board policy is also a governance tool that is critical for executing local control. Establishing structure through policy is one of the board's central roles for building and maintaining relationships that are essential to successfully serving students. In conjunction with administrative regulations, board policy guides the superintendent in fulfilling the board's vision when carrying out the day-to-day operations. By implementing board policy, districts actualize the direction set by the board while maintaining confidence that legal obligations are met. Studies of boards in high-achieving school districts spend more time discussing student achievement and policy development than administrative details. For this reason, alone without stating any other obvious missteps by the current leadership is why I employ this board to change the direction from chaos and follow board policies that have been implemented by boards across the state as best practices to avoid unnecessary conflict. The idea that a candidate for board president must obtain CSBA Masters in Governance is absolutely absurd. With all due respect, Member Carnevale has outperformed all of you and knows his role best as a board member. He will serve this district well as your board president.
And that concludes public comment on ADA. So, with that said, as it is an agendized item, any board member may comment on circumstance, and then we'll go into nominations. As current president, I'll save my comments for last. If anybody else has any comments about the public comments, please feel free to chime in.
I would like to comment. I just want to point out that I appreciate those of you who've come out to speak on behalf of your opinions. I'm curious as to know how many of you are currently parents of the district or are actually living in the district. On the contrary, I've had many comments that I've received through email, phone, and messaging in regards to Jim's leadership and on the contrary of Carnevale's behaviors within the district. Not necessarily pinpointing any one political direction or party, but I would imagine that they come from many different political parties and ideologies. So my curiosity is this, is that many of you that are here to comment have come on a regular basis. And I'm not exactly sure, I know Chrissy's a parent here in Cajon Valley, but I've received more comments from actual parents in Cajon Valley that do approve of Jim's leadership. So that's the dilemma that I have. There's an interest of people that are here that come on a regular basis, and those who voiced interest, however, they don't necessarily have the ability to come for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but the fact of the matter is that there have been people who actually belong in this district, attend this district, also work in the district, who are not disapproving of Trustee Miller's leadership. So that leaves me with the dilemma of why that happens. I'm not exactly sure why that happens, but it's clear. So that's all I have to say.
Other comments by the board?
Have a rebuttal to what you're saying?
No.
We'll just go out of here.
I'm sure it will, the meme. Any other comments?
Question, can you elaborate on Carnevale's behavior, that comment you made?
Well, for example, when we've talked about in the past, just as an example of going to school sites, we've talked about privately just that measure of building rapport with schools so that they don't have the concern that you're coming to audit them. And I know public has a very different view of what that looks like. But when a school site sees a trustee coming and number one, they haven't built a rapport, nor do they know if they're coming in for an audit, which we also know that our superintendent is our number one and our only employee. So if any audits happen, the way a protocol that I personally take, and I'm not even sure if it's correct or not, but if there is something that I see egregious on a school campus, it would go through the protocols of what I know parents to do. They talk to the principal, they talk to the teacher in violation perhaps, and try to determine why that's happening, and then go to the superintendent to find out if he can rectify the problem. So the problem gets rectified between whatever department would be necessarily in charge of that issue, may it be curriculum or site, or even in the case of when some of our schools have issues with the grounds. is it our position as a board member to address that directly on the dais, or is it our position as a governing board to address it to the specific departments so that they can handle it based on their skill, based on their knowledge, based on the relationships that they have with every school site, so that they can handle that issue. Then, in that case, circle back to us so that we actually know that these issues are either being worked on or being rectified, have been resolved. And I've tried to address that with you in that manner, but it's very difficult because by and large, a lot of our school sites talk to me and perhaps other board members of how it's very difficult to address the fact that when a board member comes and they don't really know what the motive of coming, and then in the meantime there's a report of a lot of egregious activities that are surprising to not only the school site sometimes, or also surprising to us as board members and also to cabinet. And
a report of egregious activities.
well, I'm talking, sure.
What's that?
Or is it a report of egregious activities?
Okay, let's not.
As the
Anthony, don't argue with Joe. You asked her a question. She's answered her question. This is not cross-examination. Any other comments from the dais about the public comment?
Yes. Trustees are elected to visit school sites. Our governance handbook and our governance policies are followed by every trustee behind this dais, as far as I know, and have been followed. Our superintendent has mischaracterized things, has gone before me, preceded me to school sites, to union meetings, and made it out to be an issue that, oh, when Anthony comes, you have these rights, you don't, and even from behind this dais, that superintendent has suggested auditing apparently egregious activities. I would sure like to hear that listed out, but that's, I think that's just a basis, that is, no, I don't think, that is factually a baseless accusation, probably coming from the superintendent himself. So you said a lot of interesting things, Joe. There is a governance handbook, so give courtesy notice to the principal. I've done so each and every time. There are board policies that have been followed, so it was an interesting diatribe you went on, but I didn't really hear anything of substance, to be honest, other than you don't really know whether you do the right thing when you visit school sites.
Karen, Juliana, any discussion about or comments about the public comment?
I think that we are a 5-member board. I don't think we are a 1-person board. I appreciate that each person brings with them their strengths, interests, and values. I have not seen us get on the same page. I hear a lot of pro-Anthony, which I'm pro-Anthony, but I think we all need to be pro-team, pro-board. We are all elected, we are all working and need to work together. So having that, I really feel like there is a need for, again, our board retreat to get there. I do not think that Anthony, you're ready for being the board president. I would like to see you be board president soon, maybe next year, but I just don't think it's time yet. I think that there is some movement forward, and so I think how we can learn to work together and it not be just a one person. So I think that we need to come together as a team and know that I know I do, my focus is on our students, performance, for their grades, for their academics, but to really work towards seeing a future for our students. Sitting in with our PTA today and having Norrell and his students talk about the world of work and the amazing things that are going on with our high school students. I am just so impressed. So with that, are we ready for nomination?
Well, I'm asking if Juliana has any comments about from public comment. All right, so before we go to nominations again, comments to the public. First and foremost, Chrissy, if you took my posting as being direct, your name's not on there at all, so it's not directed to you. Your name is not on there. And second,
I responded to you.
yeah, in your response, and then it was blocked and taken down. I'm German.
You're not allowed to
Chrissy, you can stop. This is not an interaction. I'm telling you right now. I'm German. I'm German Lutheran on behalf of my family. Right? Your comments are completely misplaced. Maybe if you had a conversation with me, you know where I'm coming from. You're associated with a gentleman that was brought into this district in October who's under investigation.
Who am I associated with?
The same person you spoke to at the Charlie Kirk evening.
Who are you talking about?
Mr. Richardson, who's not really Mr. Rich, or Mr. Richardson, not really Mr. Richards. So, look, let's both be on the same page about the facts. Chrissy, let's both be on the same page about the facts, and we're not there.
So then
now,
say that
Chrissy,
I'm not a
please.
Nazi.
Moving
Then
forward.
say it since you like to put on your Facebook. And it came back to my kids in your school district.
And moving
Say
forward.
it that I'm not.
Hey, you're not. You just associate with one.
I'm associated with my family. How dare you say that?
That's fine. The reality of the issue is it's politically charged. The problem we have here is we have a board member, with all due respect to Anthony, who's politically driven. The reason this board has been successful.
Mr. Miller, what are you doing right now?
The reason this board
Last time you were saying you're a
successful-
mind reader, now you're saying you know what drives me. This is ridiculous, sir.
So the last time we've been successful because we keep politics out of the board. All right. He calls me a mind reader. He doesn't tell me what his education is.
You tell me what drives me. You tell me what I think.
Hold on. He
Okay.
tells us that he wants to remove the superintendent. All right. Those are politically driven topics. All right. This is a $300 million
governance,
business.
Jim.
This is a $300 million business that we have to run. We have 2,300 employees, and you cannot demonize our employees on the one hand while on the same other side saying you're a conservative Republican. It doesn't work that way. Now, I didn't volunteer to be president. All right, it's been Anthony actually nominated me a year ago.
I did.
All right,
Only mistake.
and everybody's entitled to their opinion on that. This has been, unfortunately, a very contentious term, and we still moved forward.
Starts with leadership. Under duress.
The fact of the matter is, if I'm nominated for president, I will accept the nomination. If other people vote me out, I don't have a problem with that. Because again, as I've said more times than not, I don't have a problem with disagreement on this board. I don't. An honest disagreement gets us in a lot of places. It really does. I'm not a politician. You can laugh all you want. I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a coach, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother. All those titles go way before being elected, right? None of you folks respectfully live in my district.
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, Marilyn does, because she lives down the street. So there you got one vote. Congratulations. But this is not a campaign issue. This is a governance issue of the board that is going to be intact for the foreseeable year. Who is going to lead the board as president? What is our responsibility as president? That's important. So, at this point, we'll open to nominations. Who would like to nominate anybody for president of the board?
Actually, the secretary runs the election, Mr. President.
Oh, well, there you go. Point balls.
But before we do that, on behalf of our cabinet and our staff, we'd like to congratulate Trustee Churches and Trustee Carnevale on your first year. And I know I speak on behalf of our cabinet and our staff here, our parents that are here, that I see that we appreciate all of your service. Public service and elected officials, it's not easy work, and you show up in the spirit of volunteerism, and we all thank you for your service. With that, from our 5 elected officials, do we have a nomination for governing board president?
I nominate Jim Miller.
We have a motion for Trustee Miller. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second for trustee Miller as board president. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All opposed?
I have a question here, President. So the nomination is just one time, or we can nominate more than one person?
You can nominate more than one person, as far as I understand it.
It's like an action item. If the motion dies, then we can have a second motion. Right now, there is a motion and a second.
I think it's open for nominations, actually.
I'm unfamiliar as to exactly, because again, it's the first time as president in this particular situation.
Yeah, there's nominations, then there's a vote.
So nominations are open, then we vote, as I call it, per the nomination. And if the first nomination is successful, then the next nominations are relevant.
Do we go in?
For the last 11 years of doing this, we have a motion. If there's a second, then there's a vote. If there's no second, the motion dies.
Are there any other nominations, I guess would be the question.
That would be fair enough. None from these three. Juliana, do you want to nominate somebody else?
Yes, I would like to nominate Anthony.
I accept your nomination, Juliana, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second yourself.
I second myself.
Okay, with that said, the first vote.
It appears we have two candidates for president.
We do.
This is the precedent, okay.
Oh, we had it last year.
All in favor? Okay, all in favor for trustee Miller as board president?
Aye. That's 3.
All
Nay?
in favor of trustee Carnevale for board president?
Aye. 2.
3-2. Our board president is trustee Miller. Congratulations, trustee Miller.
Thank you.
God help this district.
Moving to vice president.
It is now your election.
It is recommended that the governing board elect a vice president for 2024. Do we have nominations?
Nominate Anthony for vice president.
Yes.
Do we have a second for the nomination?
I'll accept your nomination and second that. Thank you, Juliana.
Do we have another nomination for vice president?
Nomination for Karen Villa.
I will second Karen's nomination.
Accepted.
Do we have a third nomination for vice president? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Those in favor of Anthony as vice president, please vote yea. Aye. That's Juliana and Anthony. Those in opposition, please vote nay. Nay. Now, next for Karen. Please vote for Karen. All in favor say aye. Aye. Nay. Passes 3-2, Karen's vice president. Now we nominate the clerk. It's recommended that the governing board elect a clerk to the board of for 2024.
I'd
We have
like
a nomination for the clerk.
Nominate Juliana.
I nominate Anthony Carnevale.
I second the nomination for Juliana.
I'll accept that.
Do you accept the nomination
Yes.
for clerk, Anthony?
You accept the clerk.
I do not. I nominate Juliana for clerk.
Any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none, please vote. All in favor of Juliana as clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Congratulations, Juliana. It's recommended that the governing board appoint the superintendent as the secretary to the board. For board bylaw 9124 requires the board to appoint the superintendent as secretary to the governing board at the annual reorganizational meeting. Do we have a motion on this matter?
Motion.
Motion by Karen, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Juliana. And this will be a vote on board docs. And the matter passes 5-0. Moving to 8E, we do have public comments on 8E. So before we take the vote on that, Marilyn, please come back up. And then behind her will be Priscilla. These are board committee assignments.
So we can't talk about.
You can speak about the committee assignments when specific to a specific agenda item.
If she was confused, would she have a public comment?
About budget subcommittee, about the need to have things broken down so the information is clear and to everyone. And
hold on one second, Marilyn. So I think I know where you're going with this. It would probably be more appropriate for public comment, but because I'm looking at your note here, why not have a conversation here at the subcommittee? Given the other committees that we have, it's not a standing committee. So just streamline, you're here. Go ahead and have your comments associated with the subcommittee on financing and budget. That's what I have on the note. Is that correct?
Correct.
Please feel free to continue.
Businesses and families work together to gather information to budget their money for the year, month, and year. Week, month, and year, focusing on immediate needs they're required to make ends meet. This board should be a part of the subcommittee to acquire the information needed to maintain a positive movement forward to understand the financial needs of our schools and not be left in the dark, blind leading the blind. I think everyone should be a part of what the information is and make it clear to everyone. That way you can interpret that to us, let us know what's going on as parents and people in the neighborhoods that you are duly elected to. So it's important that you're engaged, all of you know what's going on and not find something out about this later. It's just important that we all know too. We have to know where our money's going to. Here's the bottom line.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing back the discussion on committees and subcommittees. I'm not sure that you even had subcommittees last year. Answer that. I know that you have the sheet that outlines it, but I never heard a board member make a report out of committee. So I support your wellness council. As a board member, we had wellness. The most important thing we had was our calendars, because we were a big district and had to manage 8 school districts that feed into us. The most important subcommittee was the audit and finance subcommittee. That gave the opportunity to board members to sit with your CBO and go through the finances, if you had any questions. And then you would sit when you're planning the budget and before the audit is done. And then you could report out to the rest of your fellow board members. I think the governance subcommittee is vital to the success of this board as well. The development of your policies, your procedures, and bylaws. I think the academic excellence subcommittee is important to what you do. I think the CEO support and evaluation subcommittee might be important to what you do as well. I just hope that you will support the subcommittees that I'm suggesting, instead of just staying with all these, and have more of a discussion to add what I mentioned to you. I have to say that it's interesting that your your secretary conducted your board president elections, but failed to conduct the rest of the elections, so I'm not quite sure what that policy or procedure is if he only conducts the board president one. I find it sad that any of these board members would say that Anthony Carnevale is not fit to be president of this board. I think he gets it. He understands that boards are run by board policy. That's why I read to you what CSBA says. You can go to their website and confirm that. How important it is for this board to govern off the same page, and you have not. I see the same thing that you've done to Anthony that you did to a former board member.
Priscilla, you're getting off topic.
When she set the spotlight
Priscilla, your topics and subcommittees.
on, she wanted subcommittees. Did you have subcommittees back then? Subcommittees do the work for the board in between the board meetings. She wanted that. It was denied that at that time. When was the last subcommittees that you appointed? 23?
These subcommittees are appointed every year.
And do they report out?
When necessary, yeah, we absolutely have a report out by LCAP. As an example.
One committee.
Time is up. Thank you
I
very
suggest
much.
you have those other
Priscilla.
committees.
Do we have any motions on the 2024 governing board committee assignments?
Yes, I appreciate the conversation and the comments from the public. I would like to see and elect maybe for the committees, I don't know how we want to do this, if we want to go down each one or, but then I do think that we do need other committees that we can discuss what that looks like, but I think we need to focus on what we have here in front of us because that's what's on the agenda. And agree, I believe that there needs to be other committees that we can work with.
And we discussed the finance committee. Last time I believe we discussed bond committee. And those are all things that we need to put together. I fully agree. We may disagree on certain things, Priscilla, but I agree with you on that 100%.
I didn't hear what the committees were exactly. I know she said she agreed with the wellness council. And then there was the finance committee and.
But last time they did bond committee, so I think that was.
Oh, bond committee, so three.
That's what we had talked about last time.
So two, okay, so wellness committee doesn't need to be added, but from finance is actually disseminated through the board president. So in other words, when John goes on his budget meetings, typically, Scott, typically the president is also invited to go. If the president can't, perhaps the vice president would go in as an alternate. And so from what I understand, it's not listed as an actual committee as far as the budgets go. But maybe it should be listed as president, vice president.
Well, what I would do is we should put on as a future agenda item to form the additional committees and then make the assignments in the next hearing, at the next meeting.
Well,
that would make the most sense to me.
So essentially there would only be two other committees that would be added.
Right, because I mean some of this is broken down into the LCAP as well. David, you were going to say something?
Yeah, my recommendation would be to look at the current committees that we have, and if there are any ones that would like to change their current role, like Anthony may want to step off this one, but I want to be on this one, we make that decision here tonight. And then if there are recommendations for other committees, staff will take a look at recommendations and public comments. There are committees that you may not be aware that already exist that could be serving in those roles, and staff can do that work for you. And then, but yes, I think looking at the current assignments is what the purpose of this reorganization meeting is.
Agreed. And then what we can do, I agree, in the future, let's put together a list of additional committees, how that would look, and then let's get back to it for the next board meeting, please. And then in the meantime, we'll vote on this particular sentence. Does anybody want to change where they're at now?
Mr. President?
Yes.
The 9134 bylaw on board committees actually lists standing committees with a continuing subject matter jurisdiction include, but are not limited to, those responsible for providing advice on budgets, audits, board policy, contracts and personnel matters. Perhaps with the existence of the bylaw, we may have the latitude to say a budget and audit committee, a board policy committee may be formed here tonight. That would be my question to the president.
Again, some of that falls under the LCAP already. I'd rather have it disseminated through staff so I can get the clarity as to exactly what does or does not fall under the heading, so we can divvy it up and make it an appropriate workload. So you said budget, audit, what was the other one you had down? Policy.
Yeah, board policy, contracts, and personnel matters. Additionally, this bylaw on board committees says that the committee will be publicly noticed and subject, this is the board bylaw on board committees, that will be publicly noticed and subject to, board committees shall provide public notice of their meetings and conduct meetings in accordance with Government Code, the Brown Act 54950-363. Now, something I've noticed about committees this year is we've, to my recollection, have not heard from a single parent chair of a committee. And moving forward, those committees, be it the LCAP committee, if we form a budget and find a budget and audit committee or a board policy committee, that this board, and it's listed in this, spelled out in these board bylaws, that we can provide direction for those parent committees to elect among themselves a chair, and these committees can also hear public comments similar to what we do, subject, in accordance with the Brown Act, at those meetings. So those parents who can't maybe come to the half dozen or more sex ed curriculum meetings we've had this year can show up at one and say, look, these are my concerns, address that to the parent committee, and the parent chair can come and report to this board on those items. So the board has a lot of, has, I'd say, the ultimate authority on how these committees are formed and how they report to the board, and I think we really need to be hearing from the parents of those committees in the coming year.
I think that's a good example. I'm sorry, I think that's a good idea, and I think a good example of that would actually be PTA President's Council. So that's already a committee that lends to be a model for the other committees. Granted that there are parents, I would like to see a collection of parents who are not repetitive on the committee. So,
She don't want me.
So for example, if we have a PTA president council, perhaps that person could maybe no more than represent 2. So that's sort of the guidelines that we have within the board assignment in order to get a more idea of how all areas of the district and hopefully their opinions can be taken into consideration also.
So in the meantime, great ideas. Do we have a motion to adopt the current governing committee assignments?
No, with adjustments.
Nobody's sitting in line adjustment.
Yeah, I think we've been discussing what options are going to be for future.
Right,
but I think if we can kind of maybe go through, if there's somebody interested in each one of them. I know, just side note, I'm still interested in the PTA council. I would like to be part of the Superintendent Citizen Advisory Committee, and yeah, I think those are the 2 I'd like to move into.
Okay.
Or stay in, move into the
Karen, can you make a note of that? Any objection to Karen moving and doing the Superintendent Citizen Advisory Committee?
That's going to be called the Parent Advisory Committee, made up of the School Site Council President, the PTA or PTO President, the ELAC President, and the principal appoint alternative should any of those members not be able to make. And we'll be resuming in-person meetings, which we haven't done since before the pandemic. In order for Karen to step on, then either Joe or Juliana would have to step off because that would constitute sterility.
I can step off. Karen, do you have something that you would like to unassign yourself to?
Yeah, I think unassigning the education committee, that really has not been happening as often. It's probably in this, I think 7 years I've been doing it, we have had 3 meetings, maybe 4 in 7 years, so.
So in the past with our Chamber of Commerce meeting, I think it also included the Rotary, is that correct, Superintendent?
We used to, but that's a membership that we no longer have. We are members of the East County Chamber of Commerce, and there is a subdivision that meets at the chamber. And like Karen said, the meetings have dropped off a little bit, but they still have a committee and still do meet.
Okay, I can volunteer to serve as the assigned board member, not the alternate. So that would just mean that we would have to probably elect someone would have to volunteer to be the alternate other than myself.
Yeah, for the education committee? Yes, I would like to be that committee. And I want to assign myself from the LCAP committee.
So move from LCAP, Juliana?
Yes.
To the alternate at the education committee?
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption, Mr. President. Chairman Chu pointed out that we may be referring to the Learning Environment Task Force Committee as opposed to the.
No,
okay.
The education committee.
The East County, okay, yeah.
East County.
I'm sorry, it was unclear, thank you. Yes. I was confused.
Okay, so Joe moves into Karen's position, Juliana comes up into the alternate position. Juliana would come off of LCAP.
I'll take LCAP.
Joe then will flip down to the LCAP with Anthony. Anthony, do you have any move you'd like to make?
Everyone's happy where they're at. I'm happy where I'm at.
Okay, with those changes, do we have a motion?
I just want to get clarification though. Joe, you're wanting to stay on public relations with Jim?
I'm an alternate. I mean,
okay.
It's not indicated, but I treat the position as an alternate second. So I would come off of alternate position on education committee.
Correct.
Okay.
Continue alternate on public relations.
Yes.
And then join Anthony in LCAP.
Correct.
So I'm no longer on the SCAC.
Correct. I'm tracking that.
If you need another board member on the, no, SCAC, that's Karen and Juliana. Yeah, okay, got it.
You're going to still stay with Juliana and Anthony on LCAP?
No, Juliana's coming off of LCAP.
Oh, LCAP, okay.
And Joe's going on. Right. Anything else?
Do we need a second person on Wellness Council?
Really don't think so, but
I'll join the Wellness Council, and perhaps at I think we did a safety and wellness thing with in May when we set up our safety committee. So I don't know if we want to join those or if they remain separate, but I will join that.
All right, add Anthony as an alternate on the Wellness Council. Any other changes? Hearing none, we have a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Karen, we have a second.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. Is there a reason why we have 3 governing board members on the Learning Environment Task Force?
Remove me.
My assumption is that no more than 2 at a time from the 10, but we have 3, so we have at least 2. 2 is 1, 1 is none. How's that?
Got it.
But if we need to remove Karen technically, that's fine. Otherwise, just keep her on for purposes of the backup.
Yeah, you can be the backup of the backup.
So we do have a motion by Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Juliana. Please vote. Passes 5-0. Moving now into item 9A, it's recommended that the governing board approve the recommendations of the administrative hearing panel in the matter of student 23-24-AH04. Do we have a motion on this matter?
Motion.
Motion by Joe. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second to Anthony on that one.
Simultaneous second.
Correct. Please vote. Passes 5-0. Moving now to the consent agenda, that's 10. We have a motion on the consent agenda.
I would like to pull item B, the board meeting minutes, for the fact that they aren't attached.
That's a good sign. I just want to make a note, a public notation that these gifted donations from our PTAs, about $60,000, so thank you to our PTAs.
Yep, absolutely. Pulling the board minutes. With the board minutes pulled in, Karen. Oops.
They're on the last meeting, just not attached to this agenda. My apologies.
Please put the board minutes on the next agenda to be approved through the next two. All right. With B pulled, please vote on the balance of 10.
Motion.
Motion by Karen, second.
Second.
Second by Joe. Please vote.
Is that, no?
No, it'll be on Anthony, from our position on the posse, do you remember what the numbers are for our donation that's coming up? Since it is technically for Christmas and holidays, I think we should announce it.
Okay, let me pull it up here on my email.
Please do. So what Anthony's pulling up is that, as mentioned earlier, the East County Posse, each year we try to help out as many people as we possibly can this time of year. We've approved a budget. We're not just in Home Valley, but we're multiple school districts here in the East County. And I know that we have specific donations that go out every year to specific groups, but this year we upped our budget, and I think Anthony will hopefully have a number, generally speaking.
I have it called up now. So for Cajon Valley, there were 12 individuals identified, which the criteria for that, which Jim established for us, was families with one child. And then for $100 gift cards, so that's a $1,200 donation. And then there were 49 families identified, which I know families include someone with one child, but family meant 2 or more. 49 families at $250 a piece for a total of between the 12 families with 1 kid and families with more than 2 kids, or 2 or more kids, a total of $13,450 to the Cajon Valley Region School District.
Well, that'll be number of kids and Karen, David, our intent is to try to get those distributed.
Forgetting one more. 3,000 to Montgomery Middle School.
And our East County Transitional Living kids.
Right.
Receive a separate donation too, since most of those kids come to our school.
And then there's Watson Valley and LCC donations. Watson Valley donation occurred. Chrissy mentioned that. LCC donation pending, because there weren't any LCC families in this number here. So that's what we're up to.
Right. We're also helping Grosse Pointe District schools, Santee schools, Lakeside schools, and Steele Canyon Charter. So we're doing what we can on the charity plan side as well. All right, and yeah, Karen and David will try and get those to you obviously this week before school ends. All right.
I'm actually leaving from this meeting, me, my wife, and my 2 teenage sons, because Walmart put us in a they flagged us for fraud because we ordered, $40,000 worth of these gift cards from all these people.
They did that just last year.
Now we've got this system where me, my wife, my 2 teenage sons, and some other members of the posse will just be we'll make a late night Walmart run tonight, and tomorrow we'll do another one when they let us do. So we can hopefully have those by Thursday.
All right, did we vote on that yet, Karen?
Oh wait, it says approved board meeting minutes on mine.
No, that's not.
Okay, so I'll say no.
No, it's,
Your attention.
no, it's not the board meeting minutes, it's everything else except for.
Without the board meeting.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
generally no board meeting minutes.
Gotcha.
We pulled those. Passes 5-0. Moving to the action items, 11A, ratify bid concrete project. It's recommended the governing board ratify the award of bid number 1625 to CMT Engineering as the lowest responsible bidder. Authorize staff to approve necessary change orders, subject to ratification, and accept project upon completion. We have a motion on this matter.
Motion.
Motion by Joe, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Anthony. Any questions or discussion? Please vote. Passes 5-0. Moving to 11B. It's recommended that the governing board authorize staff to award bid 1624 to A, Preman Roofing at the lowest responsive bidder. Authorize staff to approve necessary change orders, subject to ratification, and accept the project upon completion. Do we have a motion? Motion by Joe, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Karen. Any questions or discussion? Please vote. Passes 5-0. Moving to C. It is recommended that the governing board approve the variable term waiver adapted physical education for Jeannie Long. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Juliana. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Passes 5-0. D, it is recommended that the governing board adopt the attached resolution approving the district's annual 5-year reportable fees report for 2022-2023. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Juliana. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Passes 5-0. Moving to E, custodial supplies. It is recommended the governing board award bid 1623 for custodial supplies to the 9 lowest responsive bidders and authorize staff to execute contract documents. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Joe.
Second.
Second by Karen. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote. passes 5-0. We are approving, or up for approval, overnight field trips. It's recommended the governing board approve field trip as listed. We have a motion on this matter.
Motion.
Motion by Joe.
Second.
Second by Karen. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Looks like a lot of fun.
Matter passes 5-0. Moving now to item G. It's recommended that the governing board approve the board meeting schedule change below. Tuesday, January 9th moves to Wednesday, January 10th, and then Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 moves to Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 as the organizational meeting. Secondary one is required for purposes of falling in the San Diego County Office of Education requirements for our organizational meeting. We have a motion on this matter.
Motion.
Motion by Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Juliana. Any questions or discussion?
So it's a later meeting, not an earlier meeting? based on
Correct.
that?
That was their window. I thought the same thing, but that's what they said. We have a second. Please vote.
Just a reminder, we will be on Wednesday night, not a Tuesday.
Right on the 10th. Matter passes 5-0. Moving to item H, we have two speaker cards on H.
Now, after speakers is when we would pull from the list, Mr. President?
Correct.
Okay.
I hope I enunciate this correctly. Janae Luttrell.
Yes, she's our.
Oh, there you go. And then after that, Chrissy. Please sit down, and then the clock will start, and you'll have 3 minutes. Go right ahead.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Janae Luttrell, and I'm with the company called Real Matters Inc. And I'm here tonight along with the principal from Empower Academy to answer any questions you might have regarding the consultant contract. I know that's been discussed a few times, but I'm here this evening and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And the same here. We're happy to answer any questions and just to discuss what our goal is with consulting with Real Matters.
Thank you very much. It is an agenda item, so we can ask questions directly. If you don't have any other presentation, please feel free to take your seat. We'll have Chrissy go. And then, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I do have some questions.
All right, go right ahead.
Forgive me.
You can stop the clock.
Hang on, we're reading it the wrong way. Stand by. If the board would like to follow along here, on the handout I gave you, page 7, 16, 17, 18 are some items. So on page 17, I'm looking at this, the student training materials and activities, and it says to acknowledge individual and collective suffering.
Are you talking about this one?
Yeah, yes, page 17.
Do they need to see it?
I'm giving them a copy.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
That way they can follow.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, may I get my glasses on?
Yes, you can.
I don't understand 17.
Oh, there's little red numbers at most of the
Oh,
top.
I see, I see, I see.
Yeah, I'll make them larger next time. Okay, so this is an activity in the students facing side. It says acknowledging individual and collective suffering. And then on page 18, that's just one of the bubbles of a few. On page 18, it talks about implicit memories, and it talks about body memories, sensations associated with traumatic memories. Can you walk us through sort of how that activity goes with the students?
Sure, so this is in regards to a training on the nervous system. So our nervous system is part of how our body functions, and we have our autonomic nervous system. So what this does is we're teaching young people and young teachers also to learn how to track their nervous system so they can recognize when they're dysregulated. And that's oftentimes what we see is students will get activated for some reason, and then they might get upset for some reason. No one really knows why they're getting upset, and we're teaching them how to recognize when their body is upset for whatever reason. It's kind of that fight, flight, freeze.
Exactly. For example, you know, that's something we do regularly with our kiddos, and some of them it's even part of their IEP goals, where we talk about for them being able to recognize when things are happening in their bodies, when they're getting angry, when they're upset, when there's anxiety. You know, I mean, we all have it. Like, for example, if I go on, you know, I remember going on a first date, having nerves, right? Being able to understand, okay, that's normal. And so we're teaching our students how to be able to recognize what their bodies are going through so that they can react in an appropriate way instead of becoming upset, angry, you know, things that are not typical for our kiddos. So that's what we're really trying to do with them.
So is it limited just to delivering the instruction to the students, or is there any feedback from the students to your group during this exercise?
Feedback, as far as specifics around any experience they've had, is not the scenario. It's that they might ask for clarification, right? So, for instance, something about a student that we worked with who would get activated when the school bell rang, and she had a hard time understanding what that was. Well, as she was tracking her nervous system, and so she was recognizing her hands were setting, etc., she was able to recall a time that she got a call to the office that was describing her mother's car accident, and it happened right around the bell rang. So every time the school bell rang, her body would respond. She had, she wasn't able to recognize that, but now understanding that, the school staff were able to recognize with her so she could stay on task and continue to learn.
And she would recall this to Real Matters and the school staff?
It would be a conversation that she would, in this instance, she was able to say, this is what a time that I noticed during the school day I get distracted. And so we would say, what do you notice in your body when you feel that? My hands start sweating, I have a hard time listening to the teacher, et cetera, et cetera. And so in that case, she was able to articulate her needs, and so the school setting was able to adapt to her needs.
Or for example, let me give you another example. I remember I worked with a kiddo who was second grader, who after a while we realized had quite a lot of trauma when he was just a toddler. When staff would raise their voice, without even knowing, he would react and become dysregulated, and even at times become assaultive, aggressive, would get triggered when people, voices were higher than they should be with him. Well, after a while, working with him and his mom, finding out some of this information, we realized, okay, we have to be careful because he had experienced there was domestic violence in the home. And so those are triggers. We don't realize it. And again, thinking about trauma, trauma changes our brain chemistry, and there's a lot of research behind that. So these are some of the things that we are trying to work with our students to help them understand themselves, understand what's happening to their bodies, and helping them really learn to regulate themselves so that they can be successful community members.
Iman, can you guys talk in the microphone?
Oh,
so
I'm
we're
sorry.
getting messages
I feel like
that
I'm
we're not
so
able to
loud.
hear you. Yeah, it's for the
Okay.
Zoom.
Right.
Thank you.
So that's part of our job, right? To really
Might have
help
to
our,
really
You might be super close.
help our kiddos learn to become successful members of our community. That's the most important part, right? And happy members. So that's what we're doing at Empower. And for me, it's about providing our kiddos with as many resources and possibilities and opportunities to learn other ways so that they can succeed and be able to be successful at any school, and generalize what they're learning with us in the community. So that's part of why I really want to be able to provide them different experiences than what we're just providing at school. And for me, the other possibility with Real Matters is that my staff can also learn and grow their capacity. As a school in a district, growth mindset is really important, right? We are all learners. And so this is something that we can take from Real Matters and hopefully be able to use again and again and again. So not only are students learning and bettering themselves, but we as staff are also learning because we're all learners in what we do every day.
So if there is a scenario, like those two scenarios you described, where essentially students may open up about traumatic experiences, whether it be domestic violence or tragic event. I know each situation was different, but can you describe the setting where those students revealed that information, I guess, in those two separate scenarios? Was it like in a classroom or an activity?
Well, with the kiddo that I worked with, it was in a classroom, and we started realizing, you know, something's going on with this. Why does he react the way he does? It's not typical. And so through working with him and his mother, that's when we came together and found out. And sometimes it may come out in individual counseling. It may come out in, we have counseling and guidance groups that happen. So it all depends on the situation. It's different for everybody.
The situation I was describing actually happened in a classroom setting where we were teaching the young people how to understand and read their nervous system. And so for that student, once they were able to recognize the times of day that they found themselves getting dysregulated, they were able to make that association for themselves.
I have a question also. So when we're talking about the contract itself, $11,000, is it only relegated to Empower? Okay, so it's not necessarily curriculum or any kind of education that will be going to any of our mainstream schools. So in essence, our Empower School are those students that have the most significant needs as far as what this focus is. So it's not necessarily to all of our schools, all of our campuses. It's not going to go to Norinco or Lexington or, okay, thank you.
You know, for our kiddos at Empower, and there's probably quite a few in our district, they are very high-risk youth. So for us, it's really trying to support these kiddos so that they can be successful, and they are very high risk. A lot of times we work very hard with our students in building lagging skills, and lagging skills like communication, being able to self-regulate, being able to communicate their feelings, their needs, instead of acting out, or being able to have positive interpersonal skills and relationships with others. So there's a lot of things we work on, but a lot of these are lagging skills, and it takes time to work with them. So for some of our kiddos, it might take a couple of years. For some, it might take 6 months. So, but it is everyday work that we really try to get down dirty and with our kiddos and help them with. And believe it or not, a lot of our kiddos, they do thrive with us every day. And they build relationships, and they feel better about themselves. And when they do that, so does the work that they do and their participation, engagement in academics.
I can tell you have a lot of passion for
I
it,
do.
So I appreciate you.
I've been working with kids with social emotional since 1991, so I love it.
Question for Real Matters. There's this middle school case management tracking sheet, and at the end it says, this tracking sheet helps the case manager monitor and document the student's progress, interventions, and effectiveness of the support services provided. It also facilitates communication with the student and school staff. And sorry, your page is flipping, Joe. It's page 15. I'm reading from the bottom. Apologies. Page 15 from the bottom. It also facilitates communication with the student and school staff while maintaining a clear record of the case management process. Can you describe the case management process, the interventions and support services that students may be referred to or may, I guess, enrolled in, and then how that sorting process works with Real Matters?
Sure, and I actually appreciate the question because it helps to clarify. This case management document is really just a strategy sheet for the mentors, if you will, the case managers as they work with the young people. They employ a youth development model, which is helping the young people identify their strengths and their assets, which at times is challenging for our young people to even recognize what they have with what they have that are actually maybe sometimes feel like deficits, but with a little bit of a turnaround, they're actually assets. So with the case managers, they help work with the school staff and the students to develop a personal educational goal. They track some steps towards that goal, then they track the progress towards that goal. So it's really the student driven. The student gets to use their agency and their voice based on their strengths to set the next goal and how to use their strengths for positive educational outcomes.
And these are academic only, or is there a behavioral health component to it?
Correct. There's behavioral, there's academic, there's
And
really
who with Real Matters tracks the behavioral health aspect of these students?
our
in this
mentors.
case?
Our mentors.
And what's their?
They're
at
trained
least
youth development specialists and they're trained restorative practices facilitators.
restorative practice facilitators. And so this is, did Real Matters have a part in doing the active consent form, which is on page 16?
Yes, but can I clarify one other question you had asked? Who would, I think you said refer the students to services. The students aren't going to be referred to any services through the work we do. Our staff will be partnering with this Empower staff, and if a need is identified, it will probably be revisited at the IEP table with the family and the staff. There would be no information that is given during any of this work that would leave any of our team members to an outside entity or anyone else. It would stay within the realm of, the school.
So who does the identification? Would Real Matters potentially do the identification for some service and then go to school staff and then say,
with the
this
exception of
child may
maybe a
want-
mandated report, they might, if a disclosure is made, they obviously would follow the law and ensure a mandated report. Otherwise, it might be, I heard, a conversation earlier about CTE. It might be a young person who's really eager to pursue a certain career path. The mentor might partner in conversation with the school staff. What services do you have that could help a young person in this way? Do you have particular curriculum? So it might be a conversation as we're helping the young people develop their own language to match where they're headed along with their skills that are identified. That might be the conversation, but it would never be, this young person told me this, I'm gonna refer them to an outside entity independent of, it would be given to the school staff.
And we have 3 mental health clinicians, and they would be working with us and closely with Real Matters as well. So we ourselves will sometimes make referrals for parents if they need an outside agency, like a outside therapist, or they need to seek, a psychologist or something like that. Our therapists will do that, but this is more of, again, to just help us identify and support students in building their language skills and being able to support them, and then again, for staff to learn maybe some new techniques and ways to work with our students.
When you say identify, would that potentially mean identifying students for potential behavioral health interventions?
Well, we say just our students are all of our students are students with social, emotional, and behavioral needs. So they all are. So
Do you want to share a little bit about Empower and why?
Right. So we're a separate school setting for students with social, emotional, and behavioral needs. So all of our kiddos come to us due to challenges they've had at other sites. And so they need a smaller setting with higher staff to student ratio and mental health integrated throughout their school day. So that's kind of what we are. We're very small. And we're K-8, so we support students of all ages. And we focus a lot on consistency, routine, academics. Believe it or not, we have very high expectations for our students when it comes to academics. And but it takes a lot of, again, routine, having high expectations, consistency, and working with our staff who are trained on working with kids with behavioral needs.
Question for Real Matters: what was the certification? Youth
Development specialists.
The youth development specialists. Do they have direct interaction with the students?
Yes.
And do they make recommendations to staff for potential intervention at any point?
No, again, it would be a conversation. They're going to be helping the young person identify their own goals connected to what they've learned in regulating their nervous system. And so maybe the goal is, I want to be able to go a whole day without getting activated so that I can stay on task and improve my grade in this core area, right? That might be a goal that the student has set because they love that subject, but their own regulation gets off, and so that's a goal that they might set. So in conversation, the mentor might be helping the young people now that they understand their nervous system, and in conversation with the therapist, what are some ways that we can set up your environment so that you're less likely to get activated, that you're more likely to stay on task, right? Those are the ways in which the staff will utilize the student's goal all around the academics, right? But in concert with the rest of the staff. It's not gonna be in isolation. And as you just heard the principal describe, it's a very comprehensive model already. This is just an add-on to enhance the already robust services.
Is the idea for each and every Empower student to go through this case management tracking sheet and to identify their goals?
This is for our middle school students only.
All of them?
It depends. We do have the parent permission slip, so we would get parent permission first.
No further questions. Thank you, guys.
I really appreciate both of you being here and advocating for our vulnerable, you know, because I think there is a lot of, I really appreciate your background, especially Janae, and coming from, you know, really advocating for those kids that are being sex trafficked and groomed into that, and how you want to help stop and equip our students so that they're not vulnerable. And we, you know, Iman, you are doing amazing work with these students. This is a very tough population, so your staff, kudos. I mean, I can't say thank you enough for helping to make them, giving them the tools that they need to survive. So, thank you.
Thank you. Chrissy, you're up. One second. Stop.
All right. I wait for them to restart the clock, or what do I do?
Yeah, just wait for 1 second until you use the time.
All right, you guys know who I am. My name's Chrissy, also known as the perpetual commenter by some. I would like to address the Getting Smart consult agreement. I would like to see the board not choose another consult contract like this. I would like to see the board choose other programs that enhance academic performance, maybe putting more toward that wonderful literacy program at WD Hall. Maybe, you know, expand that to more schools instead of just having those pilot schools. I really like seeing that panel at the LCAP meeting. And I know that I'm in a lot of committees and stuff, and that doesn't seem to be appreciated. However, I think that knowing a lot about what goes on in the district does make me a more informed citizen. These programs for Getting Smart doesn't seem to advance anything, but the potential of proving that World of Work or Beable is somehow a research-based product on happiness. We need to offer kids just more opportunities to be proficient in academics. Since starting World of Work like around 7 years ago, there's been a slow decline in academic performance, and I would caution you on bringing anything to the table that doesn't directly affect the academic performances of our students. I think this is like a very silly and kind of wasteful venture. I know that they were a big sponsor of the World of Work conference, but I think that spending money that's that is more beneficial to academics would be, you know, getting smart in this situation, you know? So don't turn our kids into guinea pigs. They don't need to be researched so that you can
peddle a product. Thank you.
Morelli, is there else? Would you like to comment?
District point of view for Bostonia.
Either Bostonia, what district? Go right ahead.
I think it's a great time to clarify.
Maybe we can start with Getting Smart's technical assistance back in 2018 when we started to conceive the idea of creating a high school, the work it did to set that up for success, and then also the technical assistance associated with the Walton grant that we just received.
And how you're setting up.
Good evening. Fantastic being here with you tonight. So Getting Smart has been a tremendous partner with Bostonia Global now since its inception. Originally, the focus with Getting Smart was around providing us with support around what's out there, giving us context in terms of innovative practices, working with their team, specifically with Tom Vanderark, who is one of the foremost leaders in education currently and has been for a long time. Their support with us has been focused on the academic side of things as well, especially in the high school realm, around what do we need to do to ensure that our students are able to be successful, not just here, but in any future endeavors that they have. So that's been a major context for us. In terms of sort of the framework and looking at, how do we create systems at large that are very impactful for our community, that's been another piece of focus with Getting Smart is what can we do to really ensure that everything that we're doing has an ultimate impact on not just the now, but future and within our community at large.
Does that include on Getting Smart's page where they say all cops are bastards? Is that part of that?
No, that's not our focus. The focus is around our students, around the needs of our students, and really ensuring whatever we're doing.
Is that part of it though?
No. For us, no. And then the other piece as well, just to touch base around the Walton Foundation, we had a lot of work that we placed in terms of some initiatives that we're trying to do within the context of high school. And they were a major part with us as well in terms of just the design of that and the grants we've been able to work
Are
with.
you aware that when they give money to Getting Smart, that they give money to things and on their statements say that all cops are bastards? Is that something that Bostonia Global endorses?
Our entire focus with Getting Smart has been around the academic side and the initiatives that we have within the high school. So that's been our focus point.
So none of that language is used?
On our side, that's not our focus.
I can talk a little bit more about the technical part. We received the Walton grant, so we should probably talk about what it's for first. It's to identify the skills that students need that we want in Cajon Valley, whether you graduate 8th grade and move on to high school, or you go to our high school and at 12th grade, what are the skills we want students to have based on input from the local community, schools, students, families. To the point about academics, it's, do you have communication skills? Do you have grit? Can you collaborate? Can you communicate? Those types of skills, that's what the grant is intended to identify. And they call it a portrait of a graduate, but it's really the skills. What do you want to have when your students leave you? In college, career, community, what skills should they have? What should we be aiming for and focusing on? The entire grant is around those skills. And the portrait of a graduate, that's all this is. We received $150,000 from the Walton grant for planning. There's a requirement in the grant for a technical support provider. There was also a predetermined list of who you could use. Getting Smart was on the list. We do have a history with them supporting many of our initiatives. And so I just wanted to provide that context to why we're requesting to use them and what the work is focused on. Solely, they are a consultant to us. They would be coaching around the feedback we get from all of our educational partners and how do we land on those skills that we're looking for at 8th and or 12th grade.
Thank you, Ron.
The other conversation around this is around the portraits of graduates, and this is a term that you've heard quite a bit around. The idea that students will be unique in their future, so each student has their own unique strengths, interests, and values. This is language that you're familiar with. I think by now everyone's familiar with the RISE. And then the portraits of graduates is saying, how do we make sure that with the diverse workforce and the diverse opportunity put forth by the San Diego Workforce Partnership, each child is able to tell their unique story. And although they'll have some similar throwable skills, they're going to have unique strengths and interests. And this is what it sounds like. These are portraits of graduates in 8th grade.
President Persuader. I like to talk, speak out, and share my ideas. I like to stand up in front of my classmates and present projects. I think it would be fun to open my own business one day and sell things. The best part about being a persuader is making ideas that people might use in the future. Enterprising persuader can change the world by taking risks and speaking up for others in need.
So he leads with ESA. He might be a mentor at Jim's law practice, or also a small business owner. But this is another student that leads with realistic.
I took the YSF inventory. The themes that best fit me are realistic and enterprising. Today, I lead with realistic because I like doing things hands-on, like switching out parts on a skateboard, working with animals, tools, or machines. Most people with the realistic theme like working outside, parks, athletic fields, farms, or even in the military. Some of the greatest skills realistic doers have are building, using tools and equipment, and building anything that involves hands-on doing. I appreciate things that I can see, touch, and use, and I like being physical and active. Realistic doers can use their unique interests to build a better world.
Kids that know their unique strengths, interests, and values, and this is one of our sophomores at junior now at our high school. These are some of the durable skills in context in our TED Talk.
The groups I joined helped me to manage my anger and reflect on my actions. But because of all the comments that have been made about the way that I looked, I really bad self-esteem. I had a hard time believing in myself. It took one teacher to really convince me that I have the ability to do great things. So I used a little confidence I had left to do a TED Talk and share my experience. Ever since the day I went on stage to tell my story, I started to feel better about myself and believe that I could win. I may not look that different from when I was in elementary school. I could definitely tell that something about me had changed. And that one thing was my self-confidence. I finally realized that I was not only beautiful on the outside, but that my stories and experiences hold value.
Had to hear her dad shout. So all those three students are very different, but they all had presentation literacy. They both had self-confidence, self-efficacy belief. These are some of the durable skills that we want to build into the portraits so that each child can tell their story. But is each child telling their story yet? Does every Cajon Valley graduate have this ability? That's not systematized yet, and the Portraits of a Graduate is a way to make sure that all graduates can lead with the ability to tell their story on the stage, just like these three students that you saw today. And Tom Vander Ark was he was a superintendent in Washington, a mentor of mine for many years. But when he was implementing technology in the early 90s, Bill Gates was a parent in his school district in the early days of Microsoft when they were blooming, and then hired Tom away to be the first founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he's created amazing grants and opportunities across the country, and many of you have met Tom. He's been with us through the way. And so Tom is deeply involved in this work too. We're really excited about it.
Just looking back on the organizing a school like Bostonia, the high school concept was something that I was very interested in from the onset of when I had joined the board back in 2014. Something that I was really hoping that we could do. In fact, Jim and I took two board members from the Grossmont Union School District and told them we wanted to take Cajon Valley High School, Grossmont, and Granite, right? Oh, maybe Valhalla too. They weren't really hot on the idea that we incorporate those high schools into Cajon Valley, and that was really based on a continuum of the learning that we established here in Cajon Valley, because once they get to the Grossmont district, it changes a little bit. And I'm not saying that there's a lot of drop-off, but there's a certain continuum of focus when we can actually afford them a continuum of what Cajon Valley does to the high school level. So in the beginning, we had looked at schools such as High Tech High. We looked at, High Tech High is the only one that really comes to mind, but schools similar to those non-traditional high schools, so that we can offer the programs that we have on the K through 8 level into the high school level. So just to give a little background to people who don't understand, there are a lot of students out there who don't really necessarily fit into the traditional high school environment, my grandson included, who started out in his freshman year at Granite Hills, but then soon realized that he'd rather attend Bostonia Global, which he does and appreciates greatly, based on a lot of, I think, different focuses in learning, unique focuses in learning, and also on a personalized level. So thank you, Norel, for seeing that ambition of mine come true. I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Anthony, I presume you want to pull a few of these?
Yes, item 4 and number 7. Are we done with public comment?
Yes, we are.
Okay, yeah, item 4 and number 7, please.
Okay, with 4 and 7 pulled, do we have a motion to approve the consulting payments?
Motion.
Motion by Anthony, second by Karen. Please vote. Matter passes 5-0. With the pulling of Real Matters, Inc., we have a motion to pass Real Matters, Inc.
Motion.
Motion by Karen. Do we have a second on number 4?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any further questions or discussion that has not already been had?
Yes. I would like to motion to table this based on the active permission slip for parents. To me, it does not make clear that the students will be engaging in an exercise that is clearly designed, or at least has the effect of sort of teasing out potential traumatic experiences for those students. And you know, if they describe to the parents, hey, we have this exercise, we talk about trauma. In this exercise, students, you know, in the past have opened up to us about these traumatic experiences, and from there they go into potential case management and those sorts of things. So this is sort of a not just the delivery of public instruction in terms of the teaching students how to emotionally regulate and do peer. Peer mediation. I don't know if that's a proper word. So if it was just the delivery of public instruction, and I think this active consent form would be adequate, because that's really what it talks about. But the active consent form, I believe, based on what we've heard from Real Matters, should inform the parents that there is a youth, I keep forgetting the name, does anyone remember the name, youth mentor? And they go through this exercise with the students, who from time to time will reveal, you know, certain traumas that are to that point not revealed to school staff.
Janae, Anthony, hold on. Janae, since you're from Real Matters, why don't you come back up here and please address this particular topic?
Can I get clarification
And
from Anthony?
if you'd like to come up as well from the powers position.
Anthony, are you suggesting that we see perhaps an interest in the parents' engagement by permission slip in order to?
Well, there's a permission slip.
No, that's what I'm needing clarification on, is if he's suggesting that we find out if there's an interest per permission slip in the program, that the parents would okay their children participate in the program that is being brought to us today. Is that what you mean?
Unless I misinterpreted, I think what Anthony is espousing is the affirmative signing of permission slip to be involved in the program is not clear enough. Is that correct? As to the potential
and specifically, one example being that, you know, this activity has had the effect on students in the past, and I assume is designed to have the potential impact of students revealing those traumatic experiences. So,
Yeah,
so parents are
hold on, Janae,
Sorry,
please.
may I clarify? It's not an activity, it's a classroom lesson. So as the young people are being taught how to track their nervous system and how to recognize when their bodies and their nervous systems are getting dysregulated, there is a lesson that they're learning, and they're actually being taught how to recognize that in themselves. And as we heard from the principal, it's happening anyway. We're just helping them understand what's at play and what is activating it. It's not an activity that is going to be tapping in necessarily or probing into areas of their life that would be have potential trauma.
So we're not going to be sitting there going, tell me about your trauma. Oh, this was related to your trauma, it must be trauma. We're not doing any of that. And secondly, a lot of our families and students that we do have in Empower, they know we work on kiddos who may have trauma, because that's part of it. Our kiddos may have trauma, may have PTSD, may have environmental concerns that have happened to them. We have foster youth, we have homeless kids, we have all kinds of students. So this is work we typically do anyway with our kids, and our families know. All of our students have individual counseling and guidance groups that occur weekly per their IEP. So it is work we currently do anyway, and our families are appreciative of this work that we do.
Partner with the families.
They're aware of it. It's not something we're trying to throw something over, trying to sneak something in. It is something that all of our families know and are aware. And before students even come to Empower, parents have to agree to it in the first place. And when they do, we do intake meetings, we describe our program, we talk about what we're doing, what we're not doing. So we're very, upfront with what our program is all about. So it's not anything different. We're not going to be, trying to do anything that we do some of these things, but there might be other better strategies, techniques, interventions that we're not aware of, that with Real Matters, that can be helpful.
How many times have you implemented this with Empower?
This is the first time.
First time, okay.
They haven't been going to it because we tabled it 2 times, and so this 3rd time it's come back.
Okay.
I can tell you, we have done this work with many schools in San Diego County and in Northern California.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
But if you need us to put something a little more clear on the parent permission slip, we can do that. But it wouldn't be, hey, we're gonna be talking about trauma, or we're gonna bring out, kids may talk about their trauma. It would be just, again, typical work that we really do with kids.
Why wouldn't it be, hey, we're gonna talk about trauma?
Well, we could, it depends. It depends, but that doesn't mean that is what's going to happen, right?
Is the instruction where they talk about trauma going to be delivered to all the students? Or it includes body memories like sensations associated with traumatic
Well, again, it's
memories?
about the nervous system and what we feel sometimes when things happen. I'm not gonna get personal, but even in my own life, growing up, I came from the Middle East. I've lived through many difficult things, but sometimes I react a certain way when certain things happen, because that's what I experienced, and I've had to learn to handle things. So it's very similar things to that. Really, we're just trying to teach kids to self-regulate, build their self-esteem, help them feel better about themselves, and help them understand there's nothing really wrong with them. That what they feel is normal, and other ways to handle their feelings besides anger, lashing out, sadness, depression. We have kids who are internalizers that may self-harm. So we're just trying to teach them other ways so they can really be successful community members.
And may I clarify, some of the most common sensations, and I know sometimes that term can feel a little awkward, especially when we're thinking about the school setting, but sensations typically that are around activated bodies might be yawning, might be tightening of the neck, might be hunger. Your body is kicking in, and in some cases it's trying to shut down, and in other cases it's getting activated. So the sensation part are things that we're all typically, sensations we can all relate to. It's not sensations directly correlated or connected to a specific trauma.
So, for example, when I get nervous, anxious, I start cleaning, in my house. I do. That makes me, I start doing things, not that I like cleaning, but that keeps me busy and I have to keep my hands moving. So that's something I've recognized as I've gotten older. Okay, I do this because I'm anxious or nervous. So we're helping them learn some of those skills.
Teaching and learning, like that's our reason for being here, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll turn to Karen Minshew on this because I know you're pretty much in charge of everything here. So, would it be possible, as part of this active consent form, to share with the parents the curriculum portion, or to provide a link for them to see what we're looking at here with regard to the implicit memories and the acknowledging individual and collective suffering portions, and then to share with the parents, similar to how other surveys are done. These are the topics that will be covered. In the past, this has caused some students to reveal traumatic experiences, and if that happens, there are these youth mentors there who can help, put them into small groups or work with staff and parents to refer them to other things.
Just to clarify, the staff wouldn't necessarily be the ones, the mentors would be the ones to intervene if a student were to get completely tapped into an old trauma, which again is not typically what happens at an unsafe degree. Again, it's kind of more reflection. Oh, that makes sense. I tend to get really tired because I'm now recognizing that's my dorsal vagal kicking in and I'm starting to yawn, right? So that they're gonna understand and have that language, but it's not gonna necessarily be that we're tapping into a trauma. However, who knows what's happening in the young people's life at this time? Something may come out. It wouldn't be our staff that would first intervene. Our staff would partner with the mental health clinicians that already are service providers for that student and have the history, have the relationship, also with the family. Our staff would just be kind of the link, but our staff would not take the lead on anything that's, kind of at that level.
I like your idea in some sense. I'm not sure if you were meaning this before Karen responds, sorry about that. But I think the involvement with the parents, because kids are learning from their environments, right? And they've learned how to react. And so I think even involving the parents, but giving them the curriculum without the knowledge behind it or even understanding might be a challenge. But getting them involved is I think a plus that can happen. So even the invitation.
Well, we could, yeah, absolutely. We could invite parents to come and we can do a little meeting with parents as well in regards to the program itself.
What say you, Karen, about?
What say Karen?
I'm providing a link to the curriculum for parents who wish to review.
Link to the curriculum, as we've brought up many times, is the IP of the group, so that goes to them. I think it'd be very easy to provide additional detail. These are the topics. Here's the general. What are we trying to do? And what are the topics and how what's the process for that? You brought up the clinicians. We can add all that detail. That's fine. The actual lessons themselves I have to defer first to the company. Before we set this up.
About sharing lessons with parents.
I'm completely comfortable sharing lessons with parents, but I would like to be the ones to share them so that the context and understanding is there. I'd be happy to have a meeting. I'd be happy to hold a Saturday training and actually teach the same skills to the parents.
Would you be amenable to, if the parent has to review the curriculum, for them to review it on their own, either via link or hard copy upon request?
I don't think that would be a service to the parent. I think it would, without the context and the understanding and the ways in which this is taught, I don't think a parent necessarily would benefit from that. So I'd be happy to meet with a parent, have a conversation with a parent. I'd be happy for any parent to have access to what we're teaching at any point.
Okay, let's, for the hypothetical, grant you that it's neither a service nor a benefit to the parent. If a parent requests to review the curriculum on their own without context, either via link or hard copy, would Real Matters accept that? Cajon Valley providing it to a parent upon request for review.
If a parent wanted to come in and meet with the principal and the curriculum would stay with the principal of the school site, I would be fine with that. However, again, I would like somebody to be able to describe and explain. I think kind of like tonight we've had some clarifying, points that maybe help dispel some some of the ways that people might misunderstand terms.
So you'd be fine with the parent reviewing it on their own, but not anywhere but the principal's office? Is that?
Yes, it is our intellectual property, and so there is, you know, that consideration as well.
Are you worried about parents like getting in the curriculum business
I'm
here?
not worried about parents getting into curriculum at all. I just would like to help parents understand the ways in which we're using the curriculum to help their young person learn and grow. So I would just really want to make sure that parent has this full understanding.
All right.
I'm frankly happy to answer any question. I am a lifelong educator. I'm a parent. I'm a grandparent. I'm happy. I've sat in your seat and I've sat on this seat, and the reason I do this is because I know how much our young people need this work and how much our educators need supports in providing the whole array of services that young people need. So I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. I really appreciated the opportunity to meet with you, Karen, yesterday, and I welcome a conversation with you as well, or any parent.
Thank you.
So at this point in time, Anthony has a request to table unless you're told. Right, there's already a motion involved, so he's requesting a table motion. So I just need a second to that, or I need Anthony do you want to still continue to table the motion?
Yes, I believe the active consent form and the method by which the district would share the curriculum and or teacher training materials upon request from a parent needs to be clarified. The active consent form to the parent also needs to be clarified. So and I saw this with San Diego Youth Services, which also had like small support groups and sort of a behavioral health.
Anthony, the question is whether you want to table or not table. The question is that you still want to table. So there's a motion to table. Do we have a second for the motion to table?
Second.
All right, there's a second to motion to table. We'll do it as an oral vote. All in favor of tabling the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All not in favor, say nay or no.
Nay.
Okay, so the tabling fails. We now have a call to question for purposes of passing the motion, because we have a first and a second. Oral vote. All in favor of passing the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor, say nay. Nay.
Nay.
Passes 3-2. Thank you. Moving now to the other topic that was pulled, is getting smart. Is there a motion to pass getting smart?
Motion.
The consulting agreement. Motion by Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion that has not already been had?
Yes. Starting on page 1, I'm reading from the first paragraph, which was the superintendent's Friday board update. The words I'm looking at, it says the Walton Grant mandates the use of technical assistance providers and has provided a list of pre-approved vendors. This is part of the agenda item in the sense that if this district accepts a grant where there is a mandate, I believe that should come before the board before the money is ever accepted. And this is in the Friday board update. I don't know that it says it on the action item itself, but it says that Getting Smart has expertise in voice collection and analysis, and they will assist us in collecting and analyzing feedback from our stakeholders. This board is perfectly equipped to solicit and analyze feedback directly from our stakeholders, rather than consultants coming and telling us what our parents think, consultants from Washington State. So going to page 2, this is all from the website gettingsmart.com that I'll be reading from. Page 2, it says getting clearer, decolonizing education. Page 3. For years, I have been an education futurist, scheming of ways we can decolonize the American education institution in the name of liberation, intentional destruction, and empowering the brilliance and souls of our young people. I've been working towards decolonizing education. Breaking down the structures and freeing us from the patriarchal white Western colonization of our education institutions and centering students, families, communities, and meaningful learning. Moving on to page 4, again, all from the Getting Smart website. If we speak of decolonizing American schools, we then seek to unsettle the country, return land to rightful indigenous communities, eliminate the United States power in government and schooling, and millions of newly displaced people must earn the ability to be in right relation with the harmony of non-colonized communities and ways of living or navigate a new migration journey. Page 5 is, this shows up at the bottom of every one of Getting Smart's links, including the homepage. Page 8. Actually, sorry, I'll start with page 7. They say a message from our team. This is their impact statement. They say they donated to numerous organizations in our communities, including Planned Parenthood, and also Sacramento Punks with Lunch, there on page 8 highlighted. Page 9, this is Getting Smart. Tom Vander Ark said this himself. We are committed to only working with organizations and leaders who share our equity commitments. Page 10, their equity statement, which I assume also is part of their equity commitment. We acknowledge the long and continued history of systemic racism and colonialism in our country and the education system. They speak of this as though it's a current, there are colonizers somewhere in our schools, apparently. It sounds like a deranged fever dream to me. Sacramento Punks with Lunch, page 11, our core beliefs in no order. All cops are bastards, no exception. Protect our street vendors, support sex workers.
Where's that particular link come from?
I'll pull back to page. That is page 8 on the impact update from Getting Smart, highlighted Sacramento Punks with Lunch, and the link. You click that link, and then you are on to.
So you're saying it's not Getting Smart? That's not it, because I've seen this before. You sent it up. Was there also a link on Senior Youth Services? Was the issue with
No,
that?
I think it was Getting Smart back then. Yeah, so this was from their impact statement. So if you're on gettingsmart.com and their impact, gettingsmart.com/whitepaper impact update, you click Sacramento Punks with Lunch, and then you end up.
Organization?
Yeah, that would be an organization that they fund.
All right, I'm gonna, Anthony, if you give me a second, I'm gonna short circuit this thing. I'm gonna move that we table this issue for additional information on Getting Smart and request staff to have that conversation.
And I will second that motion, Mr. President.
Because the punks thing that you brought up before, you and I have plenty of agreements, that's one of them. And that's gonna have to be a little bit more in-depth evaluated. So we have a table, we have a second. Joe's not here. I would like to wait till she returns. Joe has returned. Joe, I've sent a motion to table the Getting Smart issue, request additional information from staff. Anthony has seconded that motion. I'm going to call for the vote on that motion. Are you prepared to vote against piece of information?
Is that just a verbal vote?
It's just a verbal vote.
Yes.
So all in favor of tabling this particular topic, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, it's tabled for 5-0, and we're requesting additional information from staff, and we can define the topic. We are now moving on to the first interim report. That is 11I. We are about to find out. State of California is $68 billion in deficit, so that's awesome.
The DP board. This is very Paula.
Yep, you're on.
So I bring to you tonight the first interim financial report. Here is our budget cycle. Every year we have the same dates that are mandated by California Ed Code. So in June, I brought you the adopted 23-24 budget. Well, the board adopted the budget. In December, we have the first interim report. This is a point where the board is required to certify whether the school is able to meet its financial obligations for the current and subsequent school year. The first interim covers the period ending October 31st, And all of the multi-year projection assumptions are using the current information at the time that the report was prepared. So we did use the information that was available at the time of the adopted state budget, and then any updates to district programs. As a bird's eye summary, looking at both the combined and unrestricted and restricted budget, the main revenue changes come from adding in the revenues for Prop 28, the Arts and Music in Schools program that passed in November 2022, and CDE finally released its entitlements in November 2023. So it took them a year to let us know how much we'd be getting for that. So we added in those revenues and expenditures. We also added in any revenues and expenditures from closing the books for the 22-23 fiscal year, added in carryovers, and then the fund balance and carryover expenditures for the unrestricted budgets. We also updated expenditures for the collective bargaining settlement that was approved at the November board meeting. Focusing more on the unrestricted budget, the unrestricted budget is where the board can determine if the district's able to meet its financial obligations, because that is where the minimum reserve requirement is held. Revenues had a small change. There wasn't much change after the adopted budget, state budget. So the revenue changes are mostly from the local revenues. Donations and technology insurance revenues, we budget as received, and then we also added EDP parent fees. We are charging families a small reduced fee to be able to support our ELOC program. Contributions increase. As expenditures increase, the requirement to contribute to the restricted routine maintenance account goes up. And we also had a bit of a bump under special ed contribution due to increased staffing and services based on student needs. Expenditures increase based on the collective bargaining settlement, and then there's always a big jump in expenditures at the first interim budget because we're putting in the carryover budget. The multi-year projection is using it reflects any budget updates that occurred since the adopted budget, including those carryover budgets. Any carryover budgets and one-time funding and expenditures are removed in the subsequent years. Some additional adjustments based on the adoption of the state budget included reducing our 22-23 grants that were provided in that budget. They reduced to be able to fully fund the COLA in 23-24, and then we added in that other proposition revenue. We had increased enrollment. So I was projecting, or the district was projecting enrollment to decrease slightly, and I'll talk about that more in the next slide. Based on the projections, we actually increased 488 students over those projections. That's actually only about 275 or 300 students additional, but since I was projecting a bit of decline with the additional students, it netted 488 additional students for funding purposes. The LCFF funding is based on the highest of either the current year ADA, prior year ADA, or now 3 prior year ADA. At the adopted budget, I was using the funded ADA was all based on the 3 prior year ADA, but with those additional students, the subsequent 2 years, the highest ADA is for the prior year. So that really helped us getting those additional students. Will be funded possibly around 250 ADA more next year and 310 in the fall. So this chart helps to explain some of the reasons why we might be facing declining enrollment in the future years. If you look at the higher grade levels, like the 7th and 8th grade, those have really high student enrollments. As you get into the lower grades, which are the students that will be carrying through the district for several more years, those all have a lower enrollment. So as the higher enrollment grades drop off and we're left with the lower enrollment in the lower grades, there's potential there for declining enrollment. This year and next year, 2 more years, we have the implementation of the TK going up for the whole 4th year for students. So as we increase the eligible students for TK, that's helping support our enrollment for the next 3 years. But unless those lower grades start coming in higher, then we'll be looking at declining enrollment in the future. The 3 pieces that the LCFF funding is based on is the unduplicated pupil count and enrollment due to its translation to the average daily to the ADA based on the average daily attendance. So you can see historically we've had about a 95% attendance rate. There was an artificial peak in 2021 based on how the funded ADA was calculated, but now we're running an average of about between 91 and 92% attendance rate. So if the district is successful in their efforts to increase the attendance rate, then that will greatly help and impact our ADA, which we're funded on. Our UPP has grown considerably in the last couple of years, probably from the fallout of COVID. So with those higher UPP, we are funded at a higher rate under the supplemental concentration portion. And our enrollment has been, we've regained enrollment from the COVID years, and it's maintaining for right now. Looking at the unrestricted multi-year projection, we have, this multi-year projection is based on the COLA available at the time of the adopted budget. So when the budget was adopted, the COLA was projected to be about 3.9% in 24-25, and I want to say 3.25% in 25-26. I have this in the later slide as well. Those assumptions have changed, but at the time that this budget was put together, those were the assumptions that is standard to use. So with those assumptions, the LCFF revenue was growing slightly every year in the next 2 years. Everything else remains relatively stable. And then expenditures, this year for salaries, we have a 2% off schedule payment, which is a one-time payment. So while we do budget for stepping column increases as staff progresses through the salary schedule, the removal of that one-time 2% balances out the salary, so there's not a big jump in 24-25, and then that's the jump in 25-26 for stepping column. Books, supplies, and services and agreements all drop off based on the one-time and carryover expenditures being removed in the subsequent years. This all translates to, we show as deficit spending this year. That's primarily due to the addition of the carryover expenditures in this year's budget, but we're relatively balanced in the following 2 years. However, here's the slide where we talk about the state facing a $68 billion deficit over the 3-year period of 22-23 through 24-25. This information just came out December 7th from the Legislative Analyst's Office. The reason for this is there's not typically a large prior year adjustment to the state revenue. However, with the pushing off of the taxes from April to October and then to November, when the state adopted the 23-24 budget, they didn't have the revenue information available to them. So now that they have that tax revenue available, they found out that not as much taxes came in as they expected. So what this means for education funding is Proposition 98 is the minimum level of school funding, largely based on the state revenues. So the state recalculates that minimum requirement at the end of every year. So in 22-23, when they're creating the 23-24 budget, they're calculating that minimum reserve. At that time, they thought they were fairly on track with what they had originally projected. And then the second recalculation is done at the end of the following year, which will be the end of this year when they're creating next year's budget. So as if the minimum requirement decreases, the state has options. They can either leave the school funding at the initial level, or they can reduce this funding spending to the lower amount. But what that means is if they decide to reduce the spending, then we'll be needing to send back money that they gave us last year and this year. They have different tools at their disposal to be able to remedy this deficit. We'll find more about what the potential plans are at the governor's January budget. But according, if you look at the SSC chart, Last year, they over appropriated about $9 billion to schools, and then this year they over appropriated about $6 billion.
Right, is this outside the property tax?
Yes, so Proposition 98 is calculated, and then that's funded based on property, depending what your school district is. Property tax is part of that Prop 98. So on top of over appropriating our funding, the COLA for 24-25 is now estimated to be closer to 1% rather than the 3.94% that was originally projected at the time of budget adoption. If the 24-25 COLA comes in closer to 1%, in the following year 2.75%, then this could be the potential impact to our multi-year budget scenario. Rather than having a balanced budget in the out years, we're running deficit spending every year, and that signals a structural deficit. We do have the fund balance in this scenario to be able to still meet our 3% required minimum reserves, but this is the forecast that's more likely in the future. And looking at a quick look at Bostonia Global, their ADA funding is always based on the current year ADA since they're a charter school. Their ADA is growing over the next couple of years based on as they add in and fully fill their classrooms and grade levels. Their revenue goes up based on the higher ADA, as do their expenditures, but they are building their fund balance. So what is not in the budget, any impact to attendance rate trends that the district can be successful in getting. I shifted the projections to use the lower rate in the NYP to be conservative. However, as we make efforts to increase the attendance rate, that will only help the revenue. Any future salary settlements are not included. We do include stepping column increases in all of the budgets, but there's no salary settlements budgeted against any subsequent year COLAs. COLA revisions are not in the official NYP for this first interim report. Since that adopted, the COLAs were projected at 3.94 and 3.29 in the next 2 years. It's now expected to be closer to 1% and 2.75, and then that economic state outlook and the impact to that and what the state will do to balance their budget is not. Coming up next, we're in the 23-24 budget, but we're still not done with 22-23. We will bring you the audited financial report at the January meeting. We're tying up the audit report this week. It's due Friday. And then for this budget cycle, the governor's budget will be in January, and it will be projections used with that report to forecast the second interim, which I'll bring you in March. Any questions?
I have a question. And this is just a general accounting question since you are a gal. So can the board get quarterly reports on things such as attorney fees, collective bargaining, litigation, and potentially a schedule that shows state and federal grant funding, the totals, the restrictions, the terms, as part of these reports, or is there another? Asking anyone on staff or board here if they know the answer to this, but
I mean, you're welcome to request more information at any time, and
okay.
if you give me an idea of format or what you're looking for, I can definitely put something together.
Awesome.
Work with it regularly.
And then do the grants that come to the district and or the WOW Foundation, do they show up anywhere in our reports?
So it depends. So things like the WOW Foundation is completely separate financials.
Okay. Do you do those? Do we do those financials, or is it somebody else?
Well, I am the treasurer of the WOW Foundation, so yes,
okay.
we just are in the process of doing the taxes. We had to. There's a lot of reporting for nonprofits, so we had to do an extension to be able to gather all the necessary information. But we do have the annual financials.
Scott, would it be possible to incorporate reports on the WOW Foundation into these?
I mean, that is separate from the district though, so.
Or to add to rather than incorporate?
That'd be at the will of the board. It's a separate entity altogether, so if the board wishes to see financial reports, we could do that as well.
Appropriate to ask the board if they wish to see those reports, Mr. President?
Absolutely.
Board?
Detail would be brought up in, future board items, perhaps?
Okay.
I agree with Joe. Procedurally, I think that makes sense.
All other local grants, like the Walton Foundation grant, for instance, those are in our financials.
So it depends if the grant comes from federal, state, or local funding, so it's all built within there. I was gonna do a fun fact of how many different resources we cover.
That sounds like fun. And then one last question on the, and this was a question from a previous meeting, the superintendent's budget at some point went from 100,000 to 200,000. I think that was just like I'm guessing moving line items within the business department. Where is that reflected? And then, you know, in future years, if we were to go from 200,000 to 400,000, let's say, is that something that's always going to be handled there in the business department, or would that come before the board?
Is that a motion for 400,000, Anthony?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Way to seize the opportunity.
Actually, that enhancement 100,000 was temporary. It's using some of the one-time block grant money we had.
Okay.
Which we'll see what happens in January. The governor could cut that, you know, going back to last year. But that was kind of an enhancement for 3 years only. It was something that we discussed in cabinet and then put into the budget. But going forward, if the board wishes to see something separate for that, again, that comes through request to myself and Miranda.
All right.
And I think that kind of dovetails nicely with future agenda items with the board committees that we're looking at forming. So when we get to that part as well.
No other questions, Miranda? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you, Miranda.
Karen, do we have a moment of silence this evening? Oh, that's right. Well, that's just a presentation, right? All right, we have a motion to adopt the first interim report. Motion by Joe.
Second.
Second by Juliana. Please vote. And Karen, while you're at that, do we have a moment of silence? No. Is everybody voting?
There's no voting. A moment of silence.
No, the interim report. The interim report, there we go, 5-0. And there's no need for a moment of silence, I understand, so we go to 12B, retirements, Michelle.
We do, we have 2 retirements this evening. Maria Durrell, our office assistant to bilingual Spanish at Montgomery, is retiring in June after 23 years of service with us. And Marilyn McEwen, our occupational therapy assistant for the special education department, is retiring in June also after 24 years of service with us.
Please thank them for their time.
I'm super excited for that.